Hi everyone, we're here at John Sadler's Auto Repair. We have a 1989 740 GL Volvo wagon. The customer's complaint when they accelerate from a stop sign, they would go brrr, brrr, and make this bouncing sound, this vibration. You can feel it bouncing in the middle of the car. So I went for a test drive with him, and you could definitely feel it every time you accelerated. Then when you go on the freeway, the car would start shaking pretty well. So we raised the vehicle up in the air, and I'll show you what we found out. On the drive shaft on this car, it has what's called a center support bearing or a carrier bearing, and it comes with this housing, and then there's a bearing inside of it. And if you can see, the new one's already on the shaft. You can see how there's a nice round circle there. You can see how this is all sagged down. What has happened is it's just shifted its position way down low. This rubber is so worn out that every time you accelerate, the whole shaft flops around inside there. And a couple of things you need to know if you do this yourself. You need to have a machine shop, because this is pressed onto here. And the way this lines up is I just took a center punch and I made a few center punch marks on the rear where it lines up on the flange. And then I made a mark in the front where it lines up on the flange. And then I have F on here for front. And the way this sets up is the top of the U-joint knuckle here, and the top of this knuckle, and the top of this knuckle all have to be in order. And so what I did when I slid the shaft apart, this just slides out. I put some white out there, and then I made a little small center punch mark there, because it's very important that the shaft goes back in the same position. All these knuckles here have to face straight up. So if you put it back together and you have a vibration or something's not right, you got to make sure that all those knuckles are in the same position. And but this is the original one, I think. It's amazing that it's lasted this long. But when that rubber is so worn out like that, as soon as you give it some acceleration, see how this moves around so easily? As soon as you give it some acceleration, this whole shaft lifts up and it hits against the middle under part of the vehicle. So if you get it done, you can take it apart yourself. There's just 4 bolts and nuts on each end of it. And then when you slide it out of here, I just always mark it a little bit. And then this is all dried up grease here. So I'm going to clean it up, and I'm going to use, it's called Kendall Super Blue. It's a good high temperature wheel bearing grease. And it works real good on things like this. It'll last a long time. You don't want to get too much grease in here, but as you can see, this is totally dried out. The grease is all old and worn out. The U-joints still feel good. What you're looking for in those is to make sure that they move freely, that there's no bindy feeling when you move it like this, from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, or when you go from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock, that it moves nice and free. There's no binding feeling. You're looking around inside the joint area. You want to make sure that you don't see any metal shavings or things like that coming out. And these do have some snap rings you can take off, so it does have replaceable U-joints. So, that's just a little tip from John Sadler's. If you're working on a job like that, you can take the drive shaft out yourself, take that front piece off, clean it up, take it to a machine shop, or someone that has a press and they can press the new bearing and the housing on for you, and you have another happy customer, or you have a car with no more vibration and no more rumbling when you accelerate. So he had that rumbling so long, he just took it for granted that that was part of the deal. And then when I explained to him it's not part of the deal at all, it's not supposed to do that, and he had one of the bolts on the rear differential vibrated off, and so the whole differential had moved down some, because when you get that much vibration and shaking, everything's out of balance, it's going to eventually vibrate the vehicle apart. So thank you very much, have a great day.